Abs are one of the easiest muscle groups to train in a home gym because you don't need any equipment to do it well. But with just access to a barbell and a rack, you can do some really interesting stuff. Let's go. What's up guys, Kyle with HypertroFit.com, the best place to design your home gym and develop your training program. Today we are covering ab training, core training in a home gym, which is very easy to cover because you don't need any equipment to do this, but I am going to break this down into 5 main movement types, why you use them and why they're important. When training abs, it's just like training any other muscle group. We want to train the entire muscle belly through its entire range of motion, contracting hard against resistance. Where core training gets a little bit different than some other muscle groups is that it benefits heavily from statically held positions or isometrics where we're actually resisting motion. This is notable because it is directly carrying over to your strength in compound lifts such as squat and deadlift, as well as just general overall health. There are 5 main movement types that we want to hit on to make sure that we're training the core effectively across all of its major functions. We have flexion, which is training your rectus abdominis or six-pack muscles. We have anti-extension, which is also training the rectus abdominis, as well as the transverse abdominis or the giant muscular sheets that hold everything in place. We have rotation, which is primarily brought on by the internal and external obliques. We have anti-rotation, which works those same muscles as well as the quadratus lumborum, the QL, and also the glutes to some degree to stabilize everything. And finally, we have anti-lateral flexion, which is bringing a lot of those same components together. The QL, the transverse abdominis, glutes, rectus abdominis to some degree, it all plays a part, but knowing how these all fit together and how to target each of them is the best way to go about effectively training your abs and your core. The first movement type that we're going to cover is flexion. This is what most people think of when they think of training abs, and that is sit-ups, crunches, anything where we are fully stretching out and contracting the rectus abdominis, your six-pack muscles. The easiest way to train this is just that, like I just listed out, crunches, sit-ups. The sit-up is honestly one of my favorite, very underrated exercises because you can just lay down on the floor and get a ton out of this exercise. Now, that is more of an upper abdominal bias, and so we also want to include a little bit of focus in the flexion department for the lower abdominals, and by that we do some variant of a leg or a knee raise. This can be done lying on the floor for an easier variation or hanging from the rack from a pull-up bar if you're stronger. The straighter you keep your legs and the further extended they are, the harder this motion is because you're increasing the length of that lever. If you're newer to this exercise, start with the knee variant and try to stay within a range of motion where you actually feel your abs working. As soon as you start to feel anything in your lower back, that simply means that you've gone too far for your current level and ability. So just scale that back, shorten the range of motion, or shorten the length that your legs are extended until you can feel it in your abs and start working things up from there. Next on our list is anti-extension. This is actually my favorite category and typically where I spend the most time training my abs. Not for any particular reason, I just happen to like these 2 exercises more than most when it comes to ab training. The first is the ab rollout. So you can set this up with a barbell and plates if you don't have a dedicated ab wheel, and this works just as well. You are simply extending out as far as you can while maintaining a tight abdominal core. The easiest way to do this is starting with your knees on the floor and extending out again as far as you can while maintaining tension in your abs. That's going to be a very common theme here. If you ever start to extend to the point that you feel your lower back, that is exceeding your current level of strength. If you are stronger even still, then you can do these standing from your feet and extend all the way out. I can't show you that because I can't do that. I do these on my knees and I have my entire training career. And just like we discussed with the flexion portion, the upper and lower regions can be biased a little bit more by some of these exercises. So the rollout is going to be a little bit more on the upper side of the abdominals. So to bias the lower side in the anti-extension department, we are going to look at dragon flags. These are an awesome exercise that are incredibly challenging to do. It's very similar to the leg raise, but with one distinction, is that we're not actually hinging at the hips. We're keeping the hips as straight as possible. You can hinge a little bit to get up to the top, but then as you lower down with this exercise, you're trying to keep your body in as straight a line as possible. So essentially an isometric here, where we're just going through an easier to harder range of motion to maintain that positioning in, just like we talked about initially. Our third movement type is rotation, and this is pretty self-explanatory, working through the transverse plane. And the best way to handle rotation in a basic home gym is with a Russian twist. This doesn't require any equipment. You can sit on the floor, keep your feet off the ground, and simply rotate from side to side. If that is too easy to do, grab a plate, grab a dumbbell, grab a med ball, and add resistance to it. You can get creative with these and mix in throws against a wall, or you can just do something as simple as tapping each side of the floor as you go through this motion. And the Russian twist variant is, again, more on the upper bias of the abdominals. And so to go to the lower bias, and also a more advanced move, would be windshield wipers, or hanging leg raises from side to side. The fourth movement type is anti-rotation, so the opposite of what we just discussed. The easiest way to set this up in a basic home gym is with a Palov press using bands. This can also be done with cables if you have a functional trainer, but with a simple set of bands, you can rig this up to where you have plenty of resistance to challenge you. By stepping away from the anchor point of your band and standing perpendicular to it, you are in perfect position to do this. There is not much movement involved with this because you are trying to resist the band or cable from pulling you back towards the anchor point. So when the band or cable is held up against your chest, there's not a whole ton of rotational force, but as you extend it out, that rotational force increases dramatically. And the fifth and final movement pattern to fully train your core is anti-lateral flexion. So just like we did anti-extension, anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion would be trying to keep from falling to one side or the other with uneven weight. So think loaded carries, but only holding on one side. The simplest way to do this is grab a dumbbell and go for a walk. Or if you don't have a lot of space, you can march in place or do suitcase deadlifts so that you are not balanced on both sides and your core has to work overtime to keep you upright. Of all of the exercises on this list, this is probably the movement type that is the least used. So definitely mix this in from time to time to make sure that you're keeping balance from one side to the other and your internal stabilizers, your hips, your core, your glutes are all working in sync. This will have nice carryover to a lot of your strength movements as well. And I do really quickly want to mention that by no means a requirement, but a very nice to have is some sort of soft padded mat for the floor when doing a lot of this core work. I have the 4-fold mat from Rep Fitness. It's super lightweight, super easy to use. I bought it a year ago and I use it just about every single time that I train because I have a spot on the floor that it stays. So that is how you solve ab training in a home gym. I would love to know what some of your guys' favorite movements are. Are there any that I missed with the basics, or are there any machines or various pieces of equipment that you've really fallen in love with for training your core? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will catch you again in the next one.